I would go home and I would eat all of this food, nearly 8,000 calories in a single sitting. But the truth was, I couldn't even wait until I got home. Those fiber cheesecake bars, they were getting ripped open in the car and demolished 6 bars. And you know what I would do with the trash? I would put it underneath my driver's seat. I was so embarrassed that I hid wrappers all of the time. And I have so many stories about times where people would find wrappers and be like, what is this? Like, what is going on? And then there I am looking at them like, how in the world do I explain this to someone that I know is not going to understand? And it makes me look so incredibly insane. Why do I feel the need to hide wrappers? Why do I feel so much shame and guilt around my relationship with food? The thing about binge eating, it is so much less about what you're actually eating, and it's about the urgency that you feel and how you emotionally feel while you are eating and leading up to eating and on the other side of eating. Those feelings and emotions are the problem. And those are what caused me to reach a breaking point, because as I sat 30 years old wondering, how am I going to live the rest of my life behaving with food this way? Can I really see myself sneaking out to the grocery store to buy candy bars and sit on the curb outside alone and eat them? Can I really imagine making up reasons to run errands so that I can go through the drive-thru and sit in my car and eat McDonald's by myself? Can I really see myself eating food in my house and then needing to go to the grocery store to replace that food so the person I'm living with doesn't know that I've just eaten boxes and packages full of snacks? I could not imagine the rest of my life that way. And so I've spent the last 9 years of my life really working on creating a healthier relationship with food, one that has allowed me to be completely binge free, but not just binge free. I no longer fight urges to binge at all. I have not had an urge to binge in over 7 years. I can't even tell you the last time I felt an urge or desire to overconsume in a way that would lead me to feeling guilt and shame and embarrassment towards myself. And during today's conversation, I want to share with you the 8 things that I did to get here so that you can also get here as well. Because I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, you do not deserve to live a life that is controlled and consumed by thoughts of food. Life is so much more than your binge eating. And if you feel hopeless right now, I understand. I've been there. And this is not medical advice, but this is advice from my own personal experience, having gone through 20 years of binge eating myself. I want to help you reach a place of peace in your life where food no longer controls you and consumes you. And that's what I'm going to teach you how to do today. Hello, my love, and welcome back to another episode of the Queen of Pep Talks podcast. Happy Wednesday. I hope that your day and your week are off to the most fantastic start. I am very excited because I know that today's episode is going to be a very, very powerful conversation if you are a binge eater. If you're not a binge eater, I'm going to encourage you to stick around, but some of this conversation might be a little bit over your head, and you might be looking at me a little bit sideways like, girl, you need help. And you're right, I did need help. And if you are a binge eater, you need help too. And it is my hope that this episode will be the first step in the direction of healing for you so that you too can get to a place where you can sit here and have a healthy relationship with food, where you are no longer consumed with feelings of guilt and shame and embarrassment around the way that you eat, because that is no way to live your life. I started binge eating at a very young age, and it took me until 30 years old to finally reach a breaking point. And I have spent the last 9 years of my life doing so much healing work to get to a place where I can sit here binge free. 8 years free from binge eating after literally consuming probably millions of calories during my binges. When I tell you, I would go crazy. We are talking 7,000, 8,000 calories in a very short period of time, like hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. I was consuming, you want to hear what a typical binge looked like for me? A typical binge, number one, started with me making sure that I knew no one was going to be home, because Lord forbid anyone see me eat the way that I did during binges. Absolutely not, because it was so embarrassing. I even used to feel embarrassed going to the grocery store checkout line. I don't think at the time self-checkouts were quite as popular as they are now. I wish that they were, because I would have been through the self-checkout in a heartbeat. I hated going through the grocery store checkout with a cart full of, are you ready for it? We start with a bag of candy, a bag of chips, a box of Fiber One strawberry cheesecake muffins, brownies, whatever they were called, 2 pints of Ben and Jerry's, and a large DiGiorno pizza, all for me. I would go home and I would eat all of this food, nearly 8,000 calories in a single sitting. But the truth was, I couldn't even wait until I got home. Those fiber cheesecake bars, they were getting ripped open in the car and demolished 6 bars. And you know what I would do with the trash? I would put it underneath my driver's seat. I was so embarrassed that I hid wrappers all of the time. And I have so many stories about times where people would find wrappers and be like, what is this? Like, what is going on? And then there I am looking at them like, how in the world do I explain this to someone that I know is not going to understand? And it makes me look so incredibly insane. Why do I feel the need to hide wrappers? Why do I feel so much shame and guilt around my relationship with food? The thing about binge eating, it is so much less about what you're actually eating, and it's about the urgency that you feel and how you emotionally feel while you are eating and leading up to eating and on the other side of eating. Those feelings and emotions are the problem. And those are what caused me to reach a breaking point, because as I sat 30 years old wondering, how am I going to live the rest of my life behaving with food this way? Can I really see myself sneaking out to the grocery store to buy candy bars and sit on the curb outside alone and eat them? Can I really imagine making up reasons to run errands so that I can go through the drive-thru and sit in my car and eat McDonald's by myself? Can I really see myself eating food in my house and then needing to go to the grocery store to replace that food so the person I'm living with doesn't know that I've just eaten boxes and packages full of snacks? I could not imagine the rest of my life that way. And so I've spent the last 9 years of my life really working on creating a healthier relationship with food, one that has allowed me to be completely binge free, but not just binge free. I no longer fight urges to binge at all. I have not had an urge to binge in over 7 years. I can't even tell you the last time I felt an urge or desire to overconsume in a way that would lead me to feeling guilt and shame and embarrassment towards myself. And during today's conversation, I want to share with you the 8 things that I did to get here so that you can also get here as well. Because I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, you do not deserve to live a life that is controlled and consumed by thoughts of food. Life is so much more than your binge eating. And if you feel hopeless right now, I understand. I've been there. And this is not medical advice, but this is advice from my own personal experience. Having gone through 20 years of binge eating myself, I want to help you reach a place of peace in your life where food no longer controls you and consumes you. And that's what I'm going to teach you how to do today. The first thing that I needed to do was I needed to be radically honest with myself about my relationship with food. If you feel a lot of guilt and shame, it can feel like I don't want to address this. I don't want to acknowledge this. And I certainly don't want to tell people around me about this because it doesn't feel good. I'm embarrassed about this behavior. And a lot of times in life, we believe that we can avoid things away. Your binge eating is not going to just miraculously go away on its own. It is going to require you to be incredibly honest with yourself about the fact that you are a binge eater. If you've been in my world since I've been sharing my life on social media over the last decade, you may remember that back in August of 2016, I publicly shared a video that went insanely viral where I talked about my binge eating. I had locked myself out of my apartment because I was so physically sick from eating all day, but I just couldn't stop. Because if you're a binge eater, you know the compulsions and the lack of the control and the feeling powerless, those are all very real feelings. And that was how I felt that day. And as I sat outside on my curb crying, embarrassed of how I had been behaving, I decided to pick up my handy dandy phone and record a video for social media and tell not only myself, probably for the first time, but share with the entire world that I was a binge eater. It was so vulnerable. It was so embarrassing, but it certainly was a massive breaking point for me in really taking ownership of who I was. And the truth was, it felt really good. It felt so good to feel like, okay, I don't have to hide anymore. It had felt like this was my dirty little secret that I was keeping in the closet and nobody could know about it. And now I was being honest about it. And as scary as it was, it felt really good. But you are unable to change what you are unwilling to acknowledge. If you want to truly change your binge eating behavior, it is going to start with you being radically honest with yourself about what your current relationship with food looks like. The second thing that I did was I started studying. I wanted to understand what is binge eating and why is this happening to me? Why is this something that I am dealing with? I cannot recommend this book enough. Brain Over Binge by Katherine Hansen changed my life. I wish I pulled out my copy so I could show it to you guys. I've read it so many times that it literally has pages falling out of it. It's been quite some time since I've touched that book because I just haven't felt the need to read it. But what I learned inside of that book was that my binge eating, it wasn't a problem with me. It wasn't some deep underlying thing that I needed to heal in order to change my relationship with food. I know you guys probably know this about me, but I grew up with massive daddy issues. I also grew up in a very tumultuous household with a lot of violence and a lot of anger and a lot of unhappiness. I watched my mom struggle with alcoholism. I've not had the best upbringing. And at 30 years old, a large part of me was feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to fix a lot of things about myself if I'm going to be able to have a healthy relationship with food. But in studying binge eating and understanding why this was happening to me, in reading Brain Over Binge, I learned this is just a habit. And if I start to understand my mindset and habits in and of themselves, then I am going to be able to break this habit and stop binge eating without ever having to heal any underlying things. I don't need to be free from daddy issues to stop binge eating. I don't need to have a perfect household to stop binge eating. I don't even need less stress in my life to stop binge eating. I don't need anything to change in my life to stop binge eating, but for me to learn that this is a habit, and every time I feel the urge to binge and I give into it, I am strengthening and deepening that habit. But on the flip side of that, every time that I feel that urge to binge and I don't listen, I am weakening those neural pathways and I am loosening and breaking that habit loop. And you are capable of doing the same thing. The third thing that I needed to do, and this was incredibly important, was I needed to begin to make peace with the body that I was living in so that I could give up my desire to restrictively diet. I believe, and my experience was that restrictive diets were a massive part of my binge eating problem. Because what I would do is I would teeter between eating like the world was coming to an end and then deciding in order to make up for that, I was going to eat less and I was going to restrict my calories and I was almost going to starve myself because I felt so much guilt. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I just ate 8,000 calories in one day, I need to spend the next 3 days eating hardly anything, taking water pills, drinking water nonstop, fasting so that I can get some of this out of my system, over exercising. The things that I did to make up for my binges were incredibly unhealthy. But what I realized was that as long as I felt hatred or dislike towards my body, I was always going to be tempted to want to change my body. And if I feel tempted to change my body, how do we do that? We start a restrictive diet. We eat less, we exercise more, and we try and control what we're putting in our mouths. The more we try and control our food, the worse our binges get. So I realized if I want to stop binge eating, I need to be okay with the physical shell that I'm living in and learn to accept my skin as I am here and now so that I can stop feeling this need to restrictively diet, at least for now. I've shared very openly that over the last several years, I have many times gone on diets. I don't really like to call them that. I like to call them, as you probably know from last week's episode, standards. And those standards raise and those standards settle a little bit sometimes, and that's okay. But when I raise my standards for myself and I want to lose a couple of pounds, I am very capable of doing that from a very, very healthy place at this point in my life. And that is amazing. So if you are a woman who is 100 pounds, 50 pounds, 150 pounds overweight, and you're thinking, well, Jessica, great, this sounds good, but I can't give up my desire to lose weight because I actually have weight that I need to lose. Babe, you can lose that weight, but first you need to do the work to have a healthy relationship with food, because if you don't, all you are going to do is continue to live in this cycle where you lose 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 pounds, but then you crash and burn and you go right back to binge eating. The goal is to help you create a healthy relationship with food so that when you decide to go into a calorie deficit, you then have a relationship with food that doesn't make you feel like you are going to spiral out of control as soon as that deficit stops, and then you end up putting all the weight back on. That is not the goal. The goal is for you to have a healthy relationship with food so that you can make changes and create new standards for your nutrition that feel really good in supporting you and living a really fulfilling and healthy life, but without living in the binge restrict cycle forever. Because you know, just like I know, It is absolutely exhausting. So I want you to get curious about what is it going to take for you to feel okay with the skin that you are living in right now, because you deserve that. And as I've talked about on many conversations here on the podcast, you know that hating your body is a habit. The size of your body actually has very little to do with you hating it. It's the fact that you are in a habit of hating your body, and you are capable of changing that habit just like you are capable of changing the habit around binge eating. The fourth thing that I needed to do, and this has been immensely valuable, not just in healing my relationship with food, but in my life in general, is that I had to increase the level of self awareness that I have in my life. I had to learn to be a woman who is no longer living life on autopilot. You know what I mean. Do you ever feel like life is Groundhog's Day and you just wake up every day and you're going through the motions? You're hardly even aware of what you're doing. You get to work and somehow you're like, how did I get here? I wasn't even paying attention to the road. You've downed your Starbucks drink and breakfast sandwich, but you haven't even recognized that you've eaten. If you're a binge eater, you know the feeling of living on autopilot. You know the feeling of like blacking out and going somewhere else while you're doing something. You know what that feels like. If you want to change your binge eating habit and behaviors, you need to be self aware enough that you are actually present in your life, that you look around and you know where you are and what's going on. Because if you're aware, you're not just going to allow yourself to go to a blacked out state of eating standing in front of your refrigerator, in front of the pantry. You're going to be aware enough to recognize, I'm feeling this desire to eat right now. I have this urge, but you've taken back control, and you know just because that urge and feeling is there does not mean that I need to give into this. This does not mean that I need to go obey the thoughts that my brain is telling me to go into the kitchen and eat. I can observe that this is happening, but I don't need to listen. But in order to be able to be that woman, you have to be aware enough to recognize when the binge urges are happening. So I want you to recognize in your life, where are you zoning out? Where are you going away? Where are you trying to escape? And how can you try and bring yourself back to the present moment, so that you can be aware of what is happening in your life and therefore be intentional with who you are choosing to be? The fifth thing that I had to do, and this is one of the most powerful strategies when it comes to making this change. A lot of this has been mindset stuff because, as you probably know in your life, so much of what you do and the changes that you make or do not make come down to the way that you think. But this is a strategy piece. I had to learn how to dismiss that overwhelming feeling and urge to go and eat. You know what it sounds like. It can hit you out of nowhere and it feels like this massive wave that almost takes over you. And it basically telling you, and this is where we start to sound crazy, you need to go eat right now. Go eat right now. And it almost feels like an outer body experience of like, I don't have a choice. I feel like I can't tell this voice no, because if I don't give in, if I don't go do it, then the voice will remain and that urge isn't going to go away. The only way to get it to go away is to actually eat. But the truth is, every time that we give into that urge and do what it asks of us, we're deepening that habit. But every time we decide, nope, I'm not going to give into this, we are weakening that habit. And if we want to be binge free, we have to weaken that habit over and over and over and over and over again. And I know that it sounds like it's going to be a little bit exhausting, and at times it might be, and it will take time. But the truth and reality is, you can learn to say no to the voice in your head that tells you to just go eat. I want to share with you what has helped me do that. It's a strategy that I've created that I call the no for now rule. And basically, what this means is when you get the urge to binge, you have a conversation with yourself. Here's what my conversation sounded like. Jessica, you're having an urge to binge right now. This is not an urge that you want to give into. And while you do have full permission to eat now and always, you know that you aren't physically hungry. And this feeling is just going to continue to tell you that you need to eat until you give in. So what I want you to do is I want you to go do something that feels good. I want you to go find a task around the house, call a friend, organize a closet, rip apart a drawer and put it back together, fold a load of laundry, watch some Netflix, go for a walk, journal. It doesn't matter what it is. Go snuggle with your cats on the bed. I want you to go find something to do for 10, 15 minutes that makes you feel good. Because a large part of what your urges are looking for is that feel good feeling that we get from food. But hint, hint, there are other things in life that make you feel good. Could even go masturbate if you wanted to. You could do anything that makes you feel good. Hey, I'm not here to judge you, girl. You do you. Go do something that makes you feel good. And I can almost guarantee you that 9.9 out of 10 times that urge to eat is going to pass if you take your brain somewhere else. But the problem for so many of us is that we don't even try this. We just allow ourselves to be consumed by this thought of just go eat. And we feel like, so I have no choice. But if you could go find something productive that feels good to do, the urge will pass. And in part of this, what I would tell myself is if after 10, 15, 20 minutes of going and doing something else, you feel genuinely hungry, then you have permission to eat because you want to continue to give yourself permission to eat. It's important. But we have to be aware enough and have the discernment to know, am I physically hungry or is this just an urge to binge? The sixth thing that I did, and this was also incredibly important and goes along with giving yourself permission to eat, was I started studying intuitive eating because I wanted to understand, how do I have a healthy relationship with food? How do I get back to basics when it comes to my relationship with food? And one of the biggest things that I needed to do when it came to intuitive eating was giving myself this kind of unlimited permission to eat. But at the same time, I also had to be a woman who respected her hunger and fullness. So while consciously I'm telling myself, you have full permission to eat, there is a standard there. Are you physically hungry? And these are all things that you can learn if you study intuitive eating or if you join the MBS program with me. If you have never taken MBS, this is a program that will literally change your life and your relationship with food forever. I've taken over 1,500 women through this program. And inside, I teach you in depth not only how to overcome binge eating, but also how to be a woman who has a standard for her relationship with food and knows how to be an intuitive eater. So you're going to learn things like how to honor your hunger and fullness, how to have respect for your body, how to enjoy food again without feeling guilt and shame, while at the same time being a woman who can feel these urges to binge and learn exactly how to dismiss them so that you can continue to move on with your life and creating the healthy relationship with food that you desire. Inside of this high-level 6-week program, we are one-on-one together in a small, intimate group of amazing women where I am by your side, leading the way and helping you improve the relationship that you have with yourself, most importantly, the relationship that you have with your body, and the relationship that you have with food. Because ultimately, the way that you eat impacts you in so many ways. It impacts the way that you feel in your body. It impacts your confidence in your body. It impacts your mindset. It impacts you emotionally. It impacts your livelihood and your well-being. And I want to help you be a woman who wakes up in your life every single day happy and excited about life, not just feeling like, oh my gosh, another day of being consumed by thoughts of food, another day of fighting these urges to binge, another day of obsessing over how skinny or small I can get. That's not a life. That is not living. That is not fulfillment. You deserve so much peace. And inside of MBS, I can help you create that. If you're interested in doing a deep dive on studying binge eating and intuitive eating and making peace with your body and having a happy and healthy and fulfilling relationship with yourself, please send me a message so that I can help you become a woman who creates that kind of relationship, become a woman who feels happy in herself, become a woman who is free from obsession around food, because you absolutely deserve that. And while hearing this information here on the podcast is amazing, it does not compare to doing a deep dive with me, holding your hand, leading the way while being surrounded by other women who are doing this work alongside you. Because I know you're not talking to your friends about this. I know you're not talking to your partner about this. I know you feel lonely. I know you feel shame. I know you feel guilt. I know you feel embarrassed. I know you feel like there is something wrong with you. But inside of MBS, I'm going to teach you that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. And you are so capable of feeling like a normal person who has a normal relationship with food, where food is just food in your life and not something that consumes you. Please, if you've been thinking about MBS, or if this conversation is making you feel something in your heart and your soul and your gut, send me a message and let's chat. The seventh thing that I needed to do, and this is massively important, not just in healing your relationship with food, but in every area of your life, if you want to be successful, is you need to learn to let go of your all or nothing thinking. There is no relationship in your life that is perfect, and the relationship that you have with food is not going to be perfect either. I need you to let go of the expectation that you're going to have some type of perfect relationship with food. And I don't know what that looks like for you or how you have that defined in your mind. But if you're thinking that you're never going to have sweet treat again, if you're thinking you're never going to have pizza again, if you're thinking that you're never going to enjoy the foods that you love again, you're wrong. If you're thinking that you can live the rest of your life controlling every morsel of food that you put in your mouth, my girl, that is a miserable fucking life, and you do not deserve to live that way. However, your life does not need to be lived in extremes where you're either over here and balls to the wall eating like a crazy person, or over here trying to starve yourself because you're trying to make up for what you've done during your binges. I want to help you find that middle ground where you're allowed to and have full permission to eat the foods that you love, and you do eat the foods that you love, but also you know you have the ability to stop. Because as a binge eater, one of the scariest feelings is, if I take a bite of this, will I be able to control myself? If I choose to give in, will I be able to stop? Those are very, very scary feelings. But we are very capable of getting to a place where that all or nothing thinking doesn't exist. But that requires us to let go of the expectation that we're going to be perfect. It requires us to be okay with being imperfect. It requires us to be comfortable saying, yes, I can have a meal that is really calorie heavy and really enjoyable and really tastes amazing and maybe feels like it's not the healthiest thing in the world. But my next choice can be one that does align with me being a healthier version of myself. It doesn't have to turn into a spiral of days or weeks or months of binge eating because you feel you have done something wrong. And the eighth and final thing that I needed to do was I needed to learn how to hold myself accountable. And I think this is something that people really struggle with, which is one of the reasons why I started my coaching business and created the MBS program, because I want to help women have a way to stay accountable to doing this work, because it is very easy to wake up on a Monday morning motivated and inspired and excited about making this change. But what happens come Wednesday when your motivation starts to wear off? How are you staying accountable to yourself? How are you checking in with yourself? What are the conversations that you're having with yourself? Are you even yet self-aware enough to recognize that you have fallen off track and you need to get back to being the woman that you really want to be? Self-accountability requires, first and foremost, self-awareness, but it also requires honest conversations. And many women are not in a place within themselves where they have the relationship developed with themselves, where they even feel comfortable having hard and honest conversations. We avoid ourselves like the plague because we're like, I just don't want to address it. I just don't want to deal with it. But not addressing it and not dealing with it is exactly what is keeping you stuck in the cycle of binge eating and restricting your calories. And if you truly want to be binge free, you need to find a way to have the hard and honest conversations with yourself on a regular basis. So you can ask the question of, am I doing what I said I was going to do? Am I being the woman that I said I was going to be? Am I paying attention for the binge urges? Am I practicing the no for now rule? Am I giving myself permission to eat? Am I honoring my hunger and fullness? Are you doing these things? And if these are things that you've struggled with, please join MBS so that I can help you become the woman that you have been craving to be. I know we live in a world right now where everyone is taking shots to get rid of the food noise, and no shame. If you're doing it, props to you, girl. Do what you got to do. But I am evidence that you can create a healthy relationship with food without a GLP-1, without putting something that you don't exactly know what it is into your body, without becoming dependent on something outside of yourself to have the relationship with food that you want to have. Because at the end of the day, unless you want to be on that shot forever, you've got to do the mindset work. And that is what I'm here to help you do. I am 8 years binge free. I want to help you get to a place where you can say that you are 8 years binge free. So you can sit here and talk about food with a smile on your face because you no longer feel guilt and shame and embarrassment. You, my love, deserve that. Okay. I love you guys so very much. I appreciate you for being here. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much. If you liked and left a comment, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. And if you are interested in MBS, please just send me a message on Instagram, on Facebook. You can email me, joinjessicaxo@gmail.com. However I can support you, I am here to do so. I just want to help you live the life that you deserve to live. Okay. I love you guys so very much, and I will chat with you next week on a brand new episode. See ya.